Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved brother Ranga. We are continuing on chapter 19, Life, and we're in the second paragraph.
As usual, in the first para of every chapter, first or two paras, Sri Aurobindo summarizes whatever he has said earlier. So, before this chapter, Life, he has had three chapters on Supermind. Supermind as a creator, Supermind as the triple status of Supermind, and Supermind, truth consciousness. So, I propose before we go into this, because he is doing the same thing here, mind. So, we'll just very quickly, briefly review the main points of what the Supermind is, what he has said in the three chapters. It will help us to situate the situation. So, first of all, he calls the Supermind the Gnosis. That's one word he uses. Whenever he uses the word Gnosis or Gnostic consciousness, he means the Supermind. He also calls it the truth consciousness or the supramental. So, and sometimes you have to be careful, because when he uses the word supramental, he may be meaning just over the mind also. You have to see the context and you have to be very careful. Okay. The second point about the supermind is, it's the topmost rung of the ladder of creation. That which is created, it is the highest. Because it is supermind itself is a creator. It is that which creates, which is power of Maya. Okay? That. Below supermind is the created world. Above supermind is the unmanifested Satchidananda. That's why it's the peak of creation. It is that which creates. It's a consciousness where all contraries are harmonized. Below the supermind, even at the overmind level, there are dualities, and they are very often not harmonized. Both are true. The personal as well as the impersonal, nirguna, saguna, all these are there, but they don't seem to mesh into a harmonious whole. They seem to be two different realities. Only in the supermind they are perfectly harmonized. Okay? Then, although supermind is a link world between the unmanifest and the manifest, Sri Aurobindo also includes it in the divine quaternary, Sat, Chit, Ananda and supermind. He includes that, although it's a borderline, he still includes it in the divine quaternary. And the lower hemisphere, what he calls the lower hemisphere, is matter, life and mind. That is what is created. Okay.
And what about overmind?
What about?
Overmind.
The overmind is part of the creation.
So it would be mind, life, matter, overmind also.
No. You could say that's the upper hemisphere. Because the moment you go above mind, you are in the spiritual planes of consciousness. You are not in the lower hemisphere. In the lower hemisphere, you are subject to the three gunas. And you are identified with your body, mind, life, you are in ignorance. But the moment you start going to the higher mind level, ignorance is becoming less and less. It is still there, but it becomes less and less. Right up to the overmind level, ignorance is there. Ignorance is defined by seeing the multiplicity. When you go to the supermind, there is multiplicity and unity, but they are perfectly harmonized. Okay, then, just now I was discussing, it is also the link world between the manifested and the unmanifested. Then, although it is a divine consciousness, yet it is linked to mind consciousness. Sat is linked to matter, Chit Shakti is linked to life, that's what he will tell us now, and Ananda is linked to the psychic being, and the vital life is linked to the consciousness force. So this is what he is busy, he will be establishing this connection. Okay? And he is very clear that he wants to establish a connection, because if there is no connection between the two, you will end up in the Mayavada theory. You have to leave the physical world and go up if you want a divine life. A divine life here is not possible if there is a dichotomy, a unreconcilable dichotomy between spirit and matter. So that's why the supermind is so important in Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. It's a link world that allows both to be harmonized. Okay? Then another thing about the supermind, even in the spiritual planes of consciousness, however high you go, the dichotomy between spirit and matter remains. And you don't have the power to, you can transform your mind, you can transform your vital, you can't transform the body unless you go to the supermental. It's only at that level that you can change the body, become a divine body. Changes may be there, but not the superman, not the transformation that he is wanting. A divine body. A divine body is not possible. The biological functioning will still remain.
And the differentiation in the new body and the divine body?
It depends on the context how you are. The new body, when he means the divine body, it will be a body where it will not be biologically created. It will not be.
Okay, not biologically created.
Yeah. And it will not have organs. They'll all be energy centers which are doing all the functions.
So they're synonymous. Divine
Yes.
body,
The new body, you can say that, yes.
Okay.
So, this is what he has said about the supermind. And now he is busy, he has established the link between mind and supermind. Now he is going to establish the link between life and conscious force. So, we start reading the second paragraph. Mind thus appears as a creative cosmic energy, agency. This is not the impression which we normally have of our mentality. Rather, we regard it primarily as a perceptive organ, perceptive of things already created by force working in matter, and the only origination we allow to it is a secondary creation of new combined forms from those already developed by force in matter. But the knowledge we are now recovering, aided by the last discoveries of science, begins to show us that in this force and in this matter, there is a subconscious mind at work which is certainly responsible for its own emergence. First, in the forms of life, secondly, in the forms of mind itself, first in the nervous consciousness of plant life and the primitive animal, secondly, in the ever developing mentality of the evolved animal and of man. And as we have already discovered that matter is only substance form of force, so we shall discover that material force is only energy form of mind. Material force is, in fact, a subconscious operation of will. Will that works in us in what seems to be light, though it is in truth no more than a half light, and material force that works in what to us seems to be a darkness of unintelligence, are yet really and in essence the same, as materialistic thought has always instinctively felt from the wrong or lower end of things, and as spiritual knowledge working from the summit had long ago discovered. We may say, therefore, that it is a subconscious mind or intelligence which, manifesting force as its driving power, its executive nature, its prakriti, has created this material world.
My first question then is the first sentence.
Yeah.
Mind thus appears as a creative cosmic agency.
Yes.
Powerful.
Yeah.
I don't know who has seen that before. Who has understood that before in the world? That mind is a creative cosmic agency.
It depends at which level you are speaking. If you are speaking of the spiritual,
Yes.
the mind that creates the world, then it has been seen in the Vedic period. Because the Vedas were quite aware of the supermind. They have spoken about it as Ritachit and Satyam Vritam Brihat. These are the words that Sri Aurobindo identifies and says this clearly refers to the supramental. So they had the idea, and even in the Isha Upanishad, the golden lid that covers the face of truth.
I was referring more to our time.
Yeah, more to our time, it's interesting because then you are looking at it from the lower end. And if you are looking, yeah, last time we discussed this, our mind, the human mind, is creative. It creates. Has it not created the?
But he says it only puts together the form of things.
Yes, that's right. So there is two types of creations. An original creation in which it creates things which did not exist before. And at our level, we are creating things which did not exist in nature, but we are combining things which are already existing. We take metal and we take electricity, we take plastics and make a TV. We do the same with the mobile. So we are creative. Mind is creative, but it's a secondary power of creation. That's what he's saying in the next sentence also.
But he says a creative cosmic agent.
Agency. It is an agent, that agent that's a supermind. That is the one, that is the agent which creates. You can also say that the supermind is the agent of Satchidananda. Satchidananda is allowing supermind to create. You can say that. So agency in that sense also it makes sense. Even in business you have a business house which gives out agencies. Okay, so it's in the same way you can say that the supermind has given the power of manifesting to supermind.
But here he's speaking of mind only.
Yeah, but with an M cap.
But MCAP is because it's the first word of the sentence.
Okay, agreed. But then that's exactly what we discussed. Supermind is a primary creator. But even our mind, which is a fallen condition of the supermind, is creating. That's exactly the point. So even only the animal mind, does it create? I don't think it creates anything.
Because the ability to put things together, to cognitively put things together is not there in the animal.
Yeah. The animal mind can't create. It can create in a certain sense, it can create a home for itself. Okay? So it can create in a very fundamental manner, it can create things.
Yes.
The chimpanzees make a home for themselves with leaves and all that. So some sort of creative power is there, but it's a very low type of creative power. But at the human level, the creative power becomes tremendous. You have invented aeroplanes, you have invented rockets, you have invented TVs, telephones. These are all creations of mind. But they are secondary creations. So, that's exactly what Sundar is saying. When we think of our mind, we don't think of it as a creative agent. We think of it only as a perceptive agent. We are only, the mind only perceives things. But that's not true. That's what he's pointing out. Okay, so this is not the impression which we normally have of our mentality. Rather, we regard it primarily as a perceptive organ, perceptive of things already created by force working in matter. And the only origination we allow to it is a secondary creation of new combined forms from those already developed by force in matter. But the knowledge we are now recovering, aided by the last discoveries of science, begins to show us that in this force and in this matter, there is a subconscious mind at work which is certainly responsible for its own emergence, first in the forms of life and secondly in the forms of mind itself, first in the nervous consciousness of plant life and the primitive animal, secondly in the ever-developing mentality of the evolved animal and of man. This sentence can be slightly misunderstood because he is mentioning science. Okay? So you have to be very careful. Science is certainly not saying that there is a subconscious mind in matter. They are not saying that. But they are saying that mind is a product of matter. Life is a product of matter. That's what they are saying. In fact, last time we discussed this, there is now the theory. In the beginning, they were thinking that only mind is created by matter. And life also is created by matter. There are Indian materialists also. They are called the Charvakas. So when you challenge them, they come out with an interesting explanation. If you tell, how can mind be a product of matter? Matter is dead and life is something living. How can it create? So they give a very interesting example. They say there are reactions in matter. Okay, you take pan is betel leaf. You take pan and you take chunam, that is lime, and you combine. One is red and one is green and one is white. When you chew them together, what happens? It produces red. That's what's happening with the mind, they will say. This is the argument they give. So it's conceivable that matter, chemical reactions of matter will produce life and also will produce mind. That's their argument. You can't counter them. So long as they are saying this, you can't counter them. But what Sridhar is saying is that spirituality is seeing that spirit and matter all is really the same in different forms, and science is saying the same thing in different words. So they are saying it from this level, from down. They are saying matter is the creative power, and spirituality is saying the spirit is the creative power, but both are really the same. One is looking from the bottom, one is looking from the top.
Well, then I have the question about the cellular mind that Mother discovered.
The
cellular mind.
Okay.
This is very powerful to me.
That's exactly what Sridhar is saying here, subconscious mind. That's exactly what he's saying.
Okay.
That the mind, there is matter, there is Satchidananda, it creates various planes of consciousness by reducing its own substance, reducing its own consciousness, reducing its own ananda and also force. It reduces and gets entrapped in the, like a jack in the box. It goes in and one by one it is now sprouting out. Like a collapsible telescope, one by one it is coming out, or like we discussed last time, the Russian doll. So mind is there even in the cell. That is what Mother was discovering. She is working at that level.
At that level.
She is working at that level. And she is trying to change that. And there are very interesting things in the agenda, because the cell represents the last element of multiplicity. That's clear. The atom in matter and in living things, the cell is the last element of multiplicity. It becomes individualized. And in the physical world, because there is multiplicity, there has to be a protective system. There is me and there is other than me. And there can be a clash. So there is nature puts in an element of fear to protect yourself. And that fear is there in each cell. It starts at that level, and Mother was fighting that. It's very interesting. So she had to face this. What nature has given as a gift actually is also an obstruction to going up.
Yes.
So that is what she was trying to do. Working at that level. So there is a involution. In one word you can say involution. Satchidananda, all these have got compressed into this. Now the evolution is coming out one by one. Science is talking of evolution, but they are talking of biological forms. They are not talking of consciousness, number one. Number two, they are not aware of the involution. They are talking only of the evolution. The idea of involution has not yet come to them.
Although they speak of a consciousness.
They speak of consciousness because now it's very obvious because of the NDE experiences. The body goes dead, the person goes out, has experiences, comes back, revived after 15-20 minutes, and tells people what happened when they were outside. The internet is full of all these stories. There are any number of stories. So this becomes so now they are aware that there is a consciousness beyond the body. That it is not related necessarily to the body. That they have come to. But they still feel that it is linked to life. Consciousness is there wherever there is life. That's what they feel. They call it biocentrism. Last time we spoke about that.
But not in inanimate matter.
Yeah, that's right. Matter can produce consciousness, but consciousness is not there per se in matter.
consciousness is there in matter also. Sri Aurobindo says.
In the spiritual view,
Yes.
But not the scientific.
not in the scientific view.
Good.
Okay, we go to the next sentence. And as we have already discovered that matter is only substance form of force, so we shall discover that material force is only energy form of mind. That's an interesting sentence. And the best way to explain this is again ice, water, water vapor. Totally three different things. Ice is nothing but water which has been condensed into a solid state, and it can also become a gaseous state. So that's what he's saying. So matter, life and mind are really the same thing in different forms. They are really the same. There's no difference. That's what he's saying. For us it's very difficult to imagine that, but that's exactly what he's saying. Okay? So material force is, in fact, a subconscious operation of will. Now, material force, that is matter as well as prana, both are there. Okay, and he is saying that it is in fact a subconscious operation of will with a W cap,
Yes.
which means conscious will at this supermind level. In our Indian systems, we call it Chit Shakti, but in the West they use the word will. It's the same thing. Will also is a force and a power. They use the word will, we use the word Chit Shakti. Will that works in us in what seems to be light, though it is in truth no more than a half light, a material force that works in what to us seems to be a darkness of unintelligence. At our level, the will is not all powerful, so it becomes obstructed and it only works at half the level it should be working at. Will that works in us what seems to be light, will that works in us in what seems to be light, therefore it is in truth no more than a half light, and material force that works in what to us seems to be a darkness of unintelligence, are yet really and in essence the same, as materialistic thought has always instinctively felt from the wrong or lower end of things, and a spiritual knowledge working from the summit had long ago discovered. So, spirit and matter are the same in different grades of substance, different grades of subtlety. Spirituality is seeing the truth from on top, and science is looking at it from bottom and saying, mind also is matter, life also is matter. That's what he's saying. We may say, therefore, that it is a subconscious mind or intelligence which, manifesting force as its driving power, its executive nature, its prakriti, has created this material world. So, it is mind or intelligence. He is using the word intelligence also with an I cap. He often uses the word intelligence for mind. And he's saying that it is that. Therefore, there is a subconscious mind or intelligence which, manifesting force as its driving power, its executive nature, its prakriti, has created the material world. So mind uses force to create the material world. That's what he's saying. But since, as we have now found, mind is no independent and original entity, but only a final operation of the truth consciousness or supermind, therefore, wherever mind is, there supermind must be. Supermind or the truth consciousness, is the real creative agency of the universal existence. Even when mind is in its own darkened consciousness, separated from its source, yet is that larger movement always there in the workings of mind, forcing them to preserve the right relation, evolving from them the inevitable results they bear in themselves, producing the right tree from the right seed. It compels even the operation of so brute, inert and darkened a thing as material force to result in a world of law, of order, of right relation, and not, as it would otherwise be, of hurtling chance and chaos. He's saying that although it seems to be, there seems to be chaos and there seems to be darkness and there doesn't seem to be any consciousness in matter, yet consciousness is there behind. Somewhat like a prompter, if you want, who is standing in the wings, and if the actor on the stage forgets her, he is immediately telling him the right thing. Something like that. The consciousness is there behind this so-called darkness and guiding it. That's what he seems to be saying. We don't see consciousness in matter, and yet we see that there is law that operates. Particularly at the animal level, we can see that. Instincts, for instance. It's impossible to understand how a newborn baby animal knows how to suckle. It's impossible to understand this. How can we understand that before the eggs come, the birds start building a nest? It's impossible for us to understand. But because there is consciousness behind which is guiding. It is the instinct is nothing but supermind guiding the darkness here. That's what he's saying. There are any number of things like that. There is a creeper. There is this. In plants also is the same. In plants also is the same. The roots that go down, they go and look for water exactly where the water is. How do they know that? It's not a blind thing. I'm looking for water. I may find, I may not find. No. The roots always find the water. I'll tell you an interesting thing that happened in the press. And you will see that we had a tree, a realization tree, and all around was only concrete. Where just a little patch of earth was there, and we had a tree there. We had a water problem, so we built a large tank, underground tank, so that we would get the supply, and from there we would take it up. One day, some of our boys decided to clean the tank. So when they went in and started cleaning the tank, they saw that the walls of the tank, it's all concrete, it's all cemented concrete. They found that all the walls are full of the finest of roots. Very hair-like roots are there all along the wall. Now tell me, this tree, it knows that there is water there and I can't go with my root, I can't go in, so I'll create a smallest, finest root which will be able to go and penetrate into that and suck the water from there. How will you explain this? That's exactly what he's saying. That there is a consciousness behind guiding the thing. Or take even the creeper. The creeper, if you do time-lapse photography, what is called, that means every 15 seconds you take a shot, or every 1 minute you take a shot. 8 hours, you can reduce it to a very short, and you can see the movement, how it is going. So the creeper lets out tendrils and goes on looking for a support. The moment it finds a support, speed of growth increases like anything, and it winds itself up and goes up. Is this not consciousness? That's what he's saying. That there is a consciousness behind guiding all these things. Actually, we stopped in the middle. He talked of world of law, of order, of right relation, and not, as it would otherwise be, of hurtling chance and chaos. So suppose this prompter consciousness is not there in the background, guiding this darkness, there will be chaos. So there has to be and that proves that there is consciousness, even in the mind also there is a consciousness, in the life also there is a consciousness, even in matter there is law that operates. It's not a hurtling chance, it's not a chaos. That's what he's saying. Okay? No. It's an arrangement, where are we? Hurtling chance of chaos. Obviously, this order and right relation can only be relative and not the supreme order and supreme right which would the supreme right which would reign if mind were not in its own consciousness separated from supermind. It's an arrangement an order of the results right and proper to the action of dividing mind and its creation of separative oppositions, its dual contrary sides of the one truth. We'll read that sentence again. Obviously, this order and right relation can only be relative and not the supreme order and supreme right which would reign if mind were not in its own consciousness separated from supermind. It's an arrangement, an order of the results right and proper to the action of dividing mind and its creation of separative oppositions, its dual contrary sides of the one truth. This guidance which is there is not absolutely perfect. It is relative. That is how you can explain the abnormalities that come up, particularly in the animal world. A calf is born with 2 heads. How come? Where is the supermind working there? Sometimes a calf is born with 6 legs. We have got pictures in the newspapers recently also we saw. Okay? Or somebody is born without hands and legs. These things can happen. They are very rare, but it can happen. So they're saying this is relative because you are coming down from the highest level of light into slowly twilight and then more darkness and finally total darkness. So that consciousness which is fully light is not able to work in its primal condition. It has to work in the conditions of darkness. Therefore it can go sometimes wrong. Why is a man, if consciousness is there all the time, supermind, nobody should be born lame, nobody should be born blind. But it happens because it's working under the conditions of darkness. The word relative. If the supermind were not there, there would be total chaos. But because the supermind is there, there is order and there is law, but that order and law is not perfect. That's what you say. The divine consciousness, having conceived and thrown into operation the idea of this dual or divided representation of itself, deduces from it in real idea and educes practically from it in substance of life by the governing action of the whole truth consciousness behind it, its own inferior truth or inevitable result of various relation. For this is the nature of law or truth in the world, that it is the just working and bringing out of that which is contained in being, implied in the essence and nature of the thing itself, latent in its self-being and self-law, svabhava and swadharma, as seen by the divine knowledge. To use one of those wonderful formulas of the Upanishad which contain a world of knowledge in a few revealing words, it is the self-existent who, as the seer and thinker, becoming everywhere, has arranged in himself all things rightly, from years eternal, according to the truth of that which they are. He is quoting from the Isha Upanishad. There is a footnote there. Kabir Manishir Paribhu Swayambhur Yatha Tathyatorthan Vyadat Shashvatibhya Samabhya. From years sempiternal, it has created these things. So, there is a guiding force which knows exactly what it's going to create and it creates it. Again, the best way of understanding this is the seed and the tree. The seed knows exactly what it's going to produce. A mango seed will create only a mango tree. It will not create anything else. There is a law that operates and it knows exactly what it is doing.
So then there comes the question of trigeneric hybrids in orchids.
Yes.
Where they can cross 3 different genera and get a totally new species.
Yes. So what nature maybe could have done that in future, but man is interfering and speeding up the process.
Exactly.
You can see it in that way.
Absolutely. That's how I see it, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in that process, we may be miscombining things also.
Yes.
That's why genetic...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we don't have the knowledge, we are only experimenting. and therefore these genetically produced grains and all that, sometimes there are problems. And there is a huge controversy going on about that.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it's hurting the endocrine system. It's producing illnesses.
Yeah. Because we don't see the consequences. Na? Sometimes we see there are advantages, and of course there are wonderful things that they have done. For instance, the hybrid wheat and all that, they have reduced the gestation period, and that which used to take maybe 3 months, 4 months, you can reduce it to by 1 month. It becomes faster. You get a better crop, and you get a higher crop, and they can also reduce the height of the so that it is wind resistant. All sorts of things they can do.
But the negatives are that they have taken out the energy from the plant.
Yes.
They've taken out the nutritive value of many of these
Yes.
In
plants.
fact, now America is recognizing because the children of today are having so many digestive problems that the doctors are now telling mothers that you think you're feeding rice to your children, but you're feeding them something that looks like rice.
Yes.
It is not rice.
That's
In
right.
Japan, they are creating pumpkins which are square in shape so that it's easy to pile them up.
So nature in its wisdom is doing something, and we are thinking that we know better than nature, and sometimes we make a mess of things.
We are not God to create nice things. We cannot.
Milk is a problem also now because there's a gene in the milk that's very toxic to the children. And when the mother puts the baby on formula, a lot of problems are coming about.
Now that's why they are going back to mother breastfeeding the children. They are saying that is a better.
And grass-fed cows,
Yeah.
not given hormones,
Yeah.
naturally raised.
This Swabhava and Swadharma is a very interesting subject. That is the seed knows exactly what it has to do. So that's the basic Swabhava. And it's also linked to the idea of the real idea. When the creation takes place, the Supreme Consciousness knows that I want to produce this. So this will be, you make a blueprint of it, that's the real idea, and it becomes a reality in the physical world. So all these real ideas are there at the supramental level, and they become actual facts here in the physical world. It is planned already that it will be like this. That's the reason why no two individuals are exactly the same. Infinitely produced, each one is meant for doing one particular job. So no two individuals are ever the same. Infinite production, and everything is planned at that stage, and it becomes a fact here. That is the Swabhava, that is there. This is what I am going to do.
And Swadharma? Swadharma then?
Swadharma is a little difficult to, but I understand it in that sense that the Swabhava is there, the potential, and what here it becomes this Swadharma. I understand it in that way. I may be wrong.
The way it was explained to me was that Swabhav is your original essential nature, and the line of development that takes you from here to there
Yes.
is the Swadharma.
Yes.
That is the thread you take which will take you there.
Yeah, this is very much linked with the idea of the caste system in India.
Exactly.
Okay, there is the divine will manifest himself in many ways. So basically, there can be infinite ways, but very very simply put, there are 4 ways in which he does it. One is the wisdom aspect. The other is the force aspect. The third is the opulence and richness and wealth and wonderful beauty. And the last is the simplest and the most humblest and the smallest, going into great details, the working out. So these are the 4 ways he works out. That's why you have the Brahmin, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya and the Shudra. And all of them have got this. That is the Swadharma of the Shudra is service, loyalty. So the Swadharma of the Brahmin is his knowledge aspect, intelligence and knowledge. The Kshatriya, that is the 4. Now, infinite combinations can come from all these 4. But this is He discusses this in the Swadharma and Swabhava, in this way also, the caste system. So there is a great truth to the caste system, but it has been totally misunderstood in India. And you think that the Shudra is the lowest and he is looked down upon. That's a total
Misconception.
misunderstanding, and also it has become hereditary, which is absolutely wrong.
Mhm. The untouchable.
Yeah, the untouchable. That has become completely wrong.
Yes.
Conventional.
And India has still not been able to get rid of that problem. The lower caste have still not been able to solve the problem. So that's the Swabhava and the Swadharma, as I understand it. The Swadharma, at this level, the Swabhava becomes the Swadharma. Consequently, the triple world that we live in, the world of mind, life, body, is triple only in its actual accomplished evolution. Life involved in matter has emerged in the form of thinking and mentally conscious life. But with mind involved in it, and therefore in life and matter, is the supermind, which is the origin and ruler of the other three. And this also must emerge. We seek for an intelligence at the root of the world, because intelligence is the highest principle of which we are aware, and that which seems to us to govern and explain all our action and creation. And therefore, if there is a consciousness at all in the universe, we presume that it must be an intelligence, a mental consciousness. But intelligence only perceives, reflects, and uses within the measure of its capacity the work of a truth of being superior to itself. The power behind that works must therefore be another and superior form of consciousness proper to the truth. We have accordingly to mend our conception and affirm that not a subconscious mind or intelligence, but an involved supermind, which puts mind in front of it as the immediately active special form of its knowledge will, subconscious in force, and uses material force or will, subconscious in substance of being, as its executive nature or prakriti, has created this material universe. That's the end of the para. Okay, we'll take up sentence by sentence. So, consequently, the triple world that we live in, the world of mind, life, body, is triple only in its actual accomplished evolution. He's saying it seems to be three different things, but actually it is one. There is no difference between mind, life, and body. They are all the same. It's triple only in its actual accomplished evolution. They are all really the same. Again, like ice, water, water vapor. It's triple. Life involved in matter has emerged in the form of thinking and mentally conscious life. Clear. Matter was there, it has produced life, and life has produced mind. Again, the Russian doll. Okay? Or I also like to think of it as a collapsible telescope. One by one it is coming out. You compress it, that's matter. Life comes out, mind comes out. Then, but with mind involved in it, and therefore in life and matter, is the supermind. So why should we stop only at matter, life and mind? There is also supermind which is also there. We don't see supermind, but it is sure to come out because it is also involved. That's what he's saying. Okay? But with mind involved in it, and therefore in life and matter, is the supermind, which is the origin and ruler of the other three. And this also must emerge. So it is bound to come out. We seek for an intelligence at the root of the world, because intelligence is the highest principle of which we are aware, and that which seems to us to govern and explain all our action and creation, and therefore if there is a consciousness at all in the universe, we presume that it must be an intelligence, a mental consciousness.
Many all caps.
Yeah. So, this is, we think that there should be consciousness should be able to explain, intelligence should be able to explain everything, because it seems to be the most, as he's saying, I don't know if any of you had this problem, but when I was a small kid studying in school, I used to be puzzled by this fact that we have a mind and there is a physical world outside. Okay? The two are totally separate. So how is it that we can find out from our mind what is there? How can we do that? How can we discover the laws of... Because the two don't seem to have anything to do with each other. But that's precisely what Sridhar is saying, that they are not separate. They are all the same. And therefore there is a connection. So the mind can find out the laws of matter which seems to be totally outside itself. That's what he's saying. There is a connection. So, but with mind involved in it, and therefore in life and matter, is the supermind, which is the origin and ruler of the other three, and this also must emerge. We seek for an intelligence at the root of the world, because intelligence is the highest principle of which we are aware, and that which seems to us to govern and explain all our action and creation, and therefore, if there is a consciousness at all in the universe, we presume it must be an intelligence, a mental consciousness. I don't know if everybody thinks in that way, but if you are sufficiently advanced in your consciousness, you will think it that way, what he is saying. Does everybody think in this way? What Sridhar is saying? He is saying, we seek for an intelligence at the root of the world. I think you do that only if you are a sufficiently awakened person. Otherwise, a normal person, he is not going to look for intelligence in matter or animals, he is not. But if you are sufficiently, you will see that yes, you will perceive that there is a law in matter. There is an organized way of thinking. Physics is not possible without the laws in the physical world. So there must be something which is guiding this. So if you are sufficiently aware in your mind, awakened, then you will see also that there is a law working in the animals, even in the plants. So you will think that there is something, an intelligence working there. That's what he is saying. So we seek for an intelligence in the world. Okay, so he is putting it in a very interesting way. He is saying, we seek for an intelligence at the root of the world. The root of the world is matter, life and mind. Okay? So, because intelligence is the highest principle of which we are aware, and that which seems to us to govern and explain all our own action and creation, and therefore, if there is a consciousness at all in the universe, we presume it must be an intelligence, a mental consciousness. In fact, scientists don't think that there is a consciousness in matter. They don't think in that way at all. So, only if you are sufficiently awakened in consciousness, you would think in this way. Then, we go to the next. But intelligence, there you are, see? But intelligence only perceives, reflects and uses within the measure of its capacity the work of a truth of being superior to itself. Okay? But intelligence only perceives, reflects and uses within the measure of its capacity the work of a truth of being superior to itself. Do we understand this? Mm-hmm. The mind is using a truth superior to itself, it is only reflecting that. Maybe it's not aware that there is a higher force, higher intelligence which is guiding it. So, superior to itself. The power behind that works must therefore be another and superior form of consciousness proper to that truth. We have accordingly to mend our conception and affirm that not a subconscious mind or intelligence, but an involved supermind which puts mind in front of it as the immediately active special form of its knowledge will, subconscious in force, and uses material force or will, subconscious in substance of being, as its executive nature or prakriti, has created this material universe. What is the structure of the sentence? We have to see. We have accordingly to mend our conception and affirm that,
that not a subconscious mind or intelligence.
And we have to affirm that not a subconscious mind or intelligence, but an involved supermind has created this material universe. Sometimes the sentences are quite complex. He doesn't use commas, but if you want to reduce, in Sanskrit we do that. Mukhya vakyam. What is the main, the verb and the subject and the object. So if you want to do that here, it should be like, we have accordingly to mend our conception and affirm that an involved supermind has created this material universe. That's the main sentence. Okay? And then he has put all sorts of parenthetical things in between. We'll see that now. We have accordingly to mend our conception. This is clear. And affirm that not a subconscious mind or intelligence has created the material universe, but an involved supermind has created this universe, and he is parenthetically saying, which puts mind in front of it as the immediately active special form of its knowledge will, subconscious in force, and uses material force or will, subconscious in substance of being, as its executive nature or prakriti has created this material universe. Supermind has created mind in front and using force to create the world, but it is there guiding this, and it is supermind that is creating the world. It seems to be that the matter is creating the world, but actually the supermind that is creating the world. This sentence is a very complex one. But very simply, if you see, this is an exercise that we have to do often instead of those things. See the main sentence, which is the verb and the subject, and link them. And you will see parenthetical phrases in between. This is a very good example of that.
Yes.
So, if you want to simplify it, the main sentence is this. We have accordingly to mend our conception and affirm that not a subconscious mind or intelligence has created the material universe, but an involved supermind has created the material universe. Now then, you have to see the parenthetical phrases in between. Okay? But we have affirmed that not a supermind. And what is supermind doing? It puts mind in front of it as the immediately active special form of its knowledge will. Supermind has got knowledge will, it is putting mind in front and saying, be my agent and do the work. That's what is telling mind. So we feel that it is that which mind is doing. Okay? Which puts mind in front of it as the immediately active special form of its knowledge will, subconscious in force. Knowledge will is there, subconscious in force, and uses material force or will, subconscious in substance. So supermind creates mind, and mind is also involved in life and matter seems to be creating all this. Prakriti seems to be creating all this. Actually, it is supermind which is doing it. That's what he's saying.
Wonderful. Thank you.